Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us for today's Winner Circle Roundtable, where we're going to get to tap the genius minds of some of this year's SC Award winners. I'm going to preemptively apologize. I have a bit of a cold, so hopefully that won't disrupt the discussion, but I'll mute myself so as to not talk over others if that happens. Today, we are joined by Dave DeWalt, founder of NightDragon, which is being recognized as our growth stage investor of the year. We're also joined by Ofer Schreiber, senior partner and head of the Israel office for Wild Ventures, which is being recognized as our early stage investor of the year. And we're joined by Monti Knode, head of customer success for Horizon 3, which won our most promising early stage startup award. Before I officially welcome everybody, I want to note that these are all new categories for the SC Awards. The SC Awards have been around for years and years, but this year we felt it was very appropriate to start recognizing the startup community as well as the investors that put money towards innovation and towards development of these technologies. Huge area, obviously, for cybersecurity, and we were remiss to not recognize those in past years. So we're here to talk about that a bit, and I first and foremost just want to say congratulations to all of you.
Thank you very much. Jill. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
The inaugural winners, so to speak. I am going to kick it right off. And I encourage you, some of these, I would love to get the perspective of everyone. You all kind of represent a little different slice of the market, which makes this conversation so interesting. But, you know, cyber is obviously a hot market for investments. It has been for a number of years. In fact, every year, I think even Dave, you and I talk about it. It's like, well, this year it might slow down a little, but the investments just keep coming and the opportunities just keep coming. So, you know, are the demands changing? You know, the threat landscape is evolving. So how does that impact the investment community? And I want to hear from both sides. You know, what's changed from now compared to maybe like 5 years ago? Looking first at the larger growth companies. Dave, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, Jill, first of all, just again, thank you for the recognition for NightDragon, and congratulations, Ofer and Monti, as well. It's great to see the Israeli innovation, and the activities are impressive. So SC does such a great job too. So thank you for doing that. You know, I feel like a veteran sometimes. You know, 2 decades of watching this market and growing with it. I feel like, you know, the father of it. I hate to say grandfather yet, so, or godfather of it, but, you know, watching it, and I always look at, you know, I call these threat super cycles, right? So over the last 20 years, whenever we've seen a dramatic incline to the threat environment, what did we see happen? We saw a lot of spending right behind it. So when I was first CEO of McAfee way back in the day, you know, it was a relatively small market, but we started to see quantity viruses and Trojans and other types of kind of nuisance viruses and worms spreading, and the market started to grow. And the threat cycle drove all that customer spending. What happened right behind that? A lot of investor spending. So over the last 2 decades, we've watched a little bit of this, always up and to the right, but we also had extremes during that time period. You look at the last 2 years, it was the single largest threat environment by every metric you can imagine. Number of 0 days, ransomware attacks, espionage attacks, you know, even terrorist attacks, you know, all the divisiveness in the election process, information warfare, IP warfare. So just about every danger in the landscape was reaching high metrics. So as you come out of 2021 and 2020 with the pandemic, the cultural crisis, the economic crisis, the Russian-Ukrainian conflicts, just about everything happening, you have a highly, highly elevated threat environment, which created a highly elevated spending environment and a highly elevated investor environment. And just to cite 2 or 3 numbers for you, even in the first half of 2022, you know, we had beyond records of the amount of activity. But now you're seeing both a balance of M&A as well as investment. 102.6 billion in M&A in cyber in the first half, 100 billion. Yeah. I mean, this is like unfathomable in some ways. 12.5 billion in investments that went in, 531 financing rounds just in the first half of the year. And what's interesting, at the same time, the public markets contracted by 31.2% of the cyber companies public. So the public sector saw some contraction, but in the private sector, you still saw expansion. But when you still look at the spending in the cyber, even at the RSA, you still have an elevated spending environment 4 times faster than IT. It's an anti-cyclic market, right? Security keeps going up and to the right. Even though we had a little contraction of valuation, spending's still there, threat environment's high. And for the foreseeable future, you know, with what's all going on with Taiwan, China, Russia, Ukraine, everything happening, we have an elevated threat environment. It probably continues to go up and to the right. At least that's the trends we've seen for 2 decades.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm going to end up circling back on M&A and even potential IPO as we, you know, look at kind of end game. I'm going to want to get some interest in there. Monti, I want to ask you, and then, you know, I do want to kind of also get the firsthand experience of a tech company here, but you know, you being more the early stage, you know, the company is looking for the diamonds in the rough, whereas, you know, Dave tends to take them and go big. I feel like, you know, you all are looking for opportunities to find that next big technology that could shake up the market, could really close some of the gaps, address the threats that Dave just spoke about. So how has that evolved? How do you do that in a market where I do feel like there are so many emerging companies that see an opportunity? So talk to me a bit about that and whether you're seeing things that are just interesting kind of come out of the woodwork in recent years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dave touched upon some great points, and I think that the cybersecurity ecosystem in general is constantly growing, evolving, and becoming more and more professional and, in a way, institutionalized. And unfortunately, we are being driven by adversaries compared to other different industries. We are being challenged on a daily basis, and the adversaries that we're dealing with are getting more and more sophisticated, and so we are being pushed to become more and more sophisticated as well as defenders, and that's driven. That is the main driver for innovation and new technologies coming out from basically from many very talented entrepreneurs. And I think that throughout the years we've seen cybersecurity entrepreneurs become more and more sophisticated, traditionally coming from very technological background with kind of a tech first in mind. And we see evolvement in that aspect as well. We see more business savvy entrepreneurs. I guess that during the past 5, 10, 15 years, a lot of cybersecurity entrepreneurs came from military background. They embed a lot of kind of the attacker's point of view in how they think about what's the right way to address some emerging threats. However, there is an ever-growing gap between the way that military cybersecurity operates and what's the right products to address enterprise challenges. Yes. And so we see more and more experience in the private sector when it comes to entrepreneurs and CEOs. They have better business understanding. They have better understanding of the defensive side and what are the challenges that CISOs and security teams are facing with. And so we see more sophisticated products, and it's less about technology. It's more about how to go to market, how to build a better product that integrates in the broader security stack, which becomes more fragmented and more challenging just to manage the ever-growing number of security products within a large enterprise, and that in a way keeps generating kind of the next generation of cybersecurity products. So we see it growing and becoming more sophisticated, and I think that in a way is the pushing startups to become more interesting and better businesses on the long term.
That's interesting. So it's almost as if the most innovative technologies are looking at how to integrate with the business and business operations a little bit more than maybe had happened in the past. So that's good. That's encouraging, I would say. And Monty, you, of course, the company has seen great success. What role did investment play? Why was it critical? And do you feel like it, how you as a company utilize that was at all influenced on, the threat environment? I mean, tell me kind of what the end goal was as you sought some of the investment from partners.
Yeah, it's interesting from what Dave and Ofer already said. We talk about the threat landscape changing and expanding. It's really changing because for two things. Number one, our connectedness has expanded. Look at it through the pandemic, where now we used to view work and home as silos. Those days are gone. Yeah. Now we've got hybrid, where people were moving to a cloud. Hybrid's becoming much more of the standard. And so when we talk about that interconnectedness, we are now spinning up cloud environments, spinning them down. People don't know what assets they have, what's public facing, where things are at. They thought they stood things down. So we're seeing a threat landscape that's much more interconnected. And when we talk about that threat landscape, as well as where Ofer was just identifying, things that are new and cool. It used to be when you talk about investing and how that was an impact on us. And even from David's experience back in FireEye and where things had been in the past, you saw where it was innovative and cool. And you could get to a big valuation. You could, as you were building this up, because it was interesting. We're at a point now with this economy constricting where it can't just be interesting. It's got to be value. And that understanding value both to the VCs and to the customers, they've got to be able to see that, feel it, touch it, because cybersecurity for a long time it's not been viewed as a revenue generating portion of a company. It's been viewed as a cost center. So how do you show that value in terms of risk, brand, and going forward is really how we tell that story in a way that resonates from not just with the CISO, but the CFO and the CEO, where they view that cybersecurity company as a partner and somebody who's just as culpable in their growth and their demise as they might be. And so being able to be a part of that and show that in a way, and Ofer described the attacker's perspective. That's what we do with our company, but being able to give them that perspective so that they can truly evaluate all their security spend, so that they can see where are we most valuable, what could an attack lead to, so that I know how to prioritize something. And I'm not just looking at 65,000 vulnerabilities and alert fatigue where we're wearing people out. That's even driving more to a great resignation. But how do I prioritize on the things that matter most? That is truly a problem within both cybersecurity companies, IT companies, and just every company. We're all digital now. And so understanding how to protect my business and brand, that's really become a part of that threat landscape now, and understanding what those greatest threats are to my business and brand, because we don't want to see ourselves in headlines in a bad way. I know when the old saying used to be, any press is good praise. Yeah. That's not good in cybersecurity. So understanding how we can show that value, demonstrate that value, so that when we can become cash flow positive and we're not just betting on 70x on our ARR to have some high value important.
Yeah, well, that kind of begs the question, and I'm going to throw it at all of you because I am curious. Is the argument, the case for a product, and so, like Monty, you just gave a great example of how you go to the customer and what you need to tell them to make them understand why a particular product is worthwhile. Is it that same message to an investor, or is the investor looking for something different? And I'm asking this of everyone, investors, what are you looking to hear from that startup? And then Monty, what is it that you are delivering to the investor to make them understand? Is it all the same message or no? I'm going to throw it out for anyone.
I'll start real quick. I mean, we're a little bit later in where we invest, Jill, as you know. So we really focus on companies whom have kind of gotten over a 10 million revenue line or a 20 million revenue line. But what we really look for, I call them the 3 T's, right? And just for simplicity, team, tech, and TAM. So what we try to really focus is the team capable? Can the team lead? Is the team inspired, passionate? Do they have the X factor to kind of get there? Because when you have a great team, you can do great things. Even with a product that might not be all there or a TAM that might not be there, a great team can find a TAM, build a tech, and make it happen. But you also want technology that's scalable, and you want a capability that has been proven and as much of a market segment as you can grow in. And at least for NightDragon as a strategic operating investor, our job is to hyperscale it. And what a window of opportunity you have. I mean, we now have, I call it crowd, cloud, and AI, right? You have crowd empowered capabilities, cloud hyperscaling infrastructure, ML and AI capabilities underneath it. It almost makes me want to go back and be a CEO again and hyperscale these companies. But
I can see you doing it, Dave. I'm going to listen and see if that happens.
But it's amazing what the windows are now. So like you got to know your window, you got to execute those T's. And you can go from near zero revenue to $1 billion in revenue in a short period of time. I showed that with Fire. I went from 10 million to $1 billion in revenue in 3 years. It's doable. And now with all the new spending and threat environments, you look for teams that can execute on that. That's from an investor side of you, and say, what can we do to take this from 10 or 20 million to $1 billion? What could we make that happen? The valuations will come with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else in terms of what the message is, whether it's
Yes, I think at the end of the day, the message to investors and to customers is not that different. Okay, yeah. So we at Wild Ventures, we invest at seed stage, so as early as possible. So fully agree with Dave. A strong team, look at a big market opportunity. It's basically the two components that we're assessing at the stage that we invest in. And I would like to refer to what Monti said before. I think that the most interesting security companies are not the ones that tell just a pure cybersecurity story. You need to buy us because you need to protect from threat X or Y. You have to basically tell a bigger story, and that story is to become how security becomes a business enabler. How with that security product you enable the business to move faster, for developers to ship product, to be a more data-driven company, and so on, or even how to reduce costs. Everybody's talking about being much more efficient these days. So some security products enable organizations to make their operations more efficient. So a pure cybersecurity story is half interesting, but a business story makes it much more interesting and increases the opportunity to build a very significant security company.
Yeah, and before we run out of time, Monti, I want to ask you for the company. I'm going to put you on the spot, but then I'm going to say broadly, like whether for what the goals are for startups in general. But what is the end game for a company like yours? Do you anticipate? Is it M&A? Is it IPO? And even if you can't, you're not going to commit to something here, because I suspect you won't. What with this economic landscape, what are the opportunities for a successful startup? And what is most appealing at this point in time?
So, and just giving candor, I think we want to see hit it big. We want to be able to, and eventually that'll come. But there's a core part of me. I grew up in the military, and there's a core part of me having seen cybersecurity be so misunderstood. There's a lot of snake oil out there, and it disgusts me. And so when we have a mission, and this is why I love being so customer focused. When we are able to help them see what really matters and move forward and start to grasp it and become those radical fans, and you start changing the community around you, where you're able to see people what your message resonate, and they see value and they get excited about it. Man, that's kind of cool. That's really cool to see VCs get excited because you're making money, but to see customers get excited because they finally see value. Oh man, this makes my job so much easier. That's really invigorating. And when that's part of our mission is to really, and we post things into our Slack channels when customers say good things and how they see it. And when the engineers go, man, that's great. I never even thought of that. That's really fun to be a part of. So, you know, I'm really enjoying it for the time being. I don't doubt that that somebody may buy us out, or maybe we'll hit IPO and we can keep building something that really has an impact in our community and just across all communities. That part's really exciting to me. So even if those things happen, I hope I get to stay with the company because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know, like Dave, prediction here, because I think a company, I wish I remembered which one, was announced on the NASDAQ today, but are you a cyber company? Are you anticipating IPOs coming back again with some of these cyber startups? And how soon, or do you think we got to wait for that a bit?
Yeah, congratulations to Zero Fox for
Thank you.
doing
That's
that.
what it was. Yes.
Yes, that was refreshing to see. I will tell you, oh yeah, IPOs are coming. I mean, look at this market and look at the opportunities. I mean, I can't say is it a couple more quarters or where it is, but you know, the capital markets are incredibly efficient. You know, the open public markets are incredibly efficient. We got a lot of amazing companies making their way into that opportunity. But in a lot of ways, maybe this is a silver lining, because when you sort of look at really good security companies, they have that rule of 40, rule of 50, where they got balance of growth and profitability. And it's a wake-up call yet again. It's not just about growth. You have to balance the two to be a really long, sustainable company. So this little pause, call it whatever you will, with the capital markets and the public side closed a little bit, it gives opportunities for companies that are heading in that direction to maybe get their cash balance better, get their profitability more in line or near sight, and become more mature for a long haul in the public markets as well. So to answer your question, absolutely coming. And by the way, Monty, I love your passion and Ofer your passion as well. I mean, that's the thing you look for in life, and I have it too. And congrats on your awards as well.
Yeah, yeah. I wish we did have more time, but congratulations to everybody. For sure. It's been great. And thank you so much for joining us. I also want to encourage everyone listening, go to our website. You'll see the full array of coverage of the SC Awards, including profiles on all of our winners, more videos, of course, and some nice in-depth reporting from our editorial team on innovation and partnership and so forth. So please do refer to all of our great coverage. And again, congrats to all of you and thanks for joining me.
Thank you,
everybody. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.